those jobs weren't actually paying the bills. So you considered at some point kind of giving up on this. How did you decide to stay the course?
Well, I worked here in New York City after college in production. I was a location scout, and
remember that a lot of times you want to give up. It doesn't look like it's going to work. It's bleak, dark. Keep your faith and keep your consistency. And if God has not closed those doors for you, my belief is there's not a door that you can't open if God wants you to open it. And there's not a door that you can open, well, with respect to what I'll say afterward, if God doesn't want it to work out, it also won't work out. Then sometimes God will let you open a door that's not for you, but that's more on, not being obedient to God. And not this more is if you are working on something in life and you want to make it happen, stick to the consistency and keep God first, and it's going to work out. If you've given it everything you possibly can and you've been consistent, then you've done exactly everything you've needed to do. And I think this is a good example of consistency and perseverance, as you'll see as the story progresses, on how Jonathan came to be the lead role for The Chosen.
that was how I made a decent living. But I had started working, MTV Celebrity Deathmatch was the first acting job I ever had. So from that point, I always had a curiosity about it, like, well, I wonder what this would look like if it went further. And fast forward to the housing market collapsing in 2008. I had booked a few other jobs. I started booking television, and I thought, okay, well, this is an opportunity to see if I can actually make this work. So I moved to LA. And for 8 years, I didn't have the safety of the job that I left in New York. It's a different
8 years. He didn't give up. He kept going. 8 years, he didn't have the safety. 8 years, he was consistently hammering away at it.
Unions and all sorts of complications to do the same thing in LA, but that's not what I was going to LA for. So I had to do all these other jobs, these side jobs. I drove rideshare. I worked in catering, all these things that
Rideshare, a.k.a. Uber, Lyft, catering, picking up catering jobs.
I'd never done before. And gotten to the point where I was broke, I was out of money, I was out of food, I was out of even government assistance for food. And
definitely no, Uber will break your car and break you down.
The only thing I hadn't done at that point was the thing that was left to do, which was to get on my knees and surrender my entire life and my career and everything that I had up to that point over to God. Because
why do we always do it last? And that's what I got from this. I took away is that the thing we need to do first, it's actually in one of my Bible studies. It is called the recipe. Oh yeah, seek his kingdom and his righteousness. If something isn't working and you want it to, and you have done everything you can, put a good effort, have you done prayer, petition, and thanksgiving? Present your request to God. Have you sought his kingdom and his righteousness? If you haven't, then you haven't done everything, and you haven't done them in the right order. How much of what is going wrong because we refuse to follow the recipe provided by the Creator, which you could read the Bible and find out yourself. But if you wanted to know what those verses are, I'll be doing a Bible study on that later. But he's absolutely right. A lot of times we do this backwards, and here we are. And let me tell you this. A lot of people say, well, that's why God didn't come through. Well, if you're Jonathan Roumie, I would beg to differ. So watch out for those naysayers saying that because you did it in the wrong way, that God's just here to punish you because you didn't do the recipe right. He'll get in there and help you get that recipe right. And let's listen on and see what God did for Jonathan Roumie.
There wasn't anything I realized I could do on my own.
Were you a believer before that?
Yeah, I was raised with the faith from a child, but it really wasn't until after that moment, it was about almost 6 years ago now, where I just said, Jesus, I surrender myself to you, take care of everything. And that day, I received this incomprehensible financial miracle that changed my life. And then 3 months later, I booked The Chosen.
Wow.
There you go. He shortly after he booked The Chosen, he sought his kingdom and all his righteousness, and a miracle happened.